Firing a client is highly counterintuitive and something that almost nobody will talk about, especially because it's so difficult to find a client in the first place. And also, who in their right mind will turn away new business, right? As your business grows and matures and you've been in business for a while, you'll realize that having the right client is much better than having more clients. If you want to have more clients, then it's best to build products where user expectations are really low and price points are really low as well. But if you're selling services, especially consultancy or tech consultancy, which is typically high ticket, your clients will have sky-high expectations and price points will be high too. In this sort of setting, you're expected to solve a particular business problem for your client and you will be working with them for quite some time. And this is where you simply cannot afford to get the wrong client. More often than not, you realize that the client is not the right fit for you much later on into the process or after your engagement has started. This usually happens because you don't have a good enough process to help you filter and qualify your clients. And this is an easy problem to solve, and I'll be covering this in a future video. Firing a client later on into the process is really difficult and feels like taking the band-aid off from a fresh and deep wound. And it's really easy to procrastinate this. It's also something that almost nobody in their right minds would suggest you do. However, if you talk to some of the most successful people, they always talk about how particular clients had almost killed their business. From my experience, I've noticed that success is less dependent on the things that you do and more dependent on the things that you don't do. For business, this translates directly into the practice of always working with the right clients because the wrong clients will end up crippling your business forever. And I've seen this happen firsthand with some of my close friends and mentors. Let's say you've already started working with a client and things aren't going as you'd planned out and you're not sure about what to do. And you usually have two options such a scenario. A, keep working with a client, or B, fire them. And this is quite a dilemma. I'd like to present 5 pointers to you in this video to help you make this decision easier. I'm Akhil and I'm the CEO at Dominate, which is just a more effective and efficient sales management tool for B2B startups. And I'll share 5 scenarios in which it is highly beneficial for you to fire your clients. 1. Bad work culture. It's very easy to run into clients that have a toxic work culture, and this can manifest in many ways. The stakeholders from the client's end not being cooperative enough, a lot of internal politics, crazy work hours, too much pressure, too much hierarchy, lack of respect for personal space, lack of respect for others' times, etc. Bad work culture will not only take a toll on your employees that are working on the client's project, but will also ruin your company's culture from that point onwards, leading to demotivation and dissatisfaction amongst the employees. Bad work culture is more or less like cancer. If you leave it untreated and let it grow, it will start affecting the entire body, or in this case, your entire company. And very much like cancer, this is something that is extremely difficult or even close to impossible to reverse. You can't truly assess or qualify your clients based on work culture unless you've actually started working with them. And this is the reason why, more often than not, the reason for you to fire a client would be based on culture. It's a great decision to fire a client who doesn't match your company culture, and the long-term benefits for this are huge. 2. Bad value system. On many projects where you're working with a client, you realize or find out that they're not respecting user policies, stealing and manipulating user data, or not maintaining data integrity, or in extreme cases, even violating the law. These are examples of a bad value system, and such clients need to be avoided at all costs. When you're getting fat payments for each delivery from the client, it becomes difficult to see the reality and take the right action. It's easy to think that it's the client's internal business and you can't do anything about it. But sooner than later, you will get involved. Then it can be too late to get out of the situation. It's obviously important to turn away new business from clients with a value system that does not match yours, but it's also highly important to stop working immediately with the client and stop all written communication with them if you find any policy or data violation at their end. The longer you procrastinate this decision, the more embedded you get into the situation, and the cost that you will eventually end up paying at the end would be exponentially higher than what you would have paid if you would have taken action much earlier. 3. Lack of trust. If the client is hiring you to solve a problem, then they need to have full faith and trust in your capabilities and skills, and need to understand that you're the expert who has been hired. More often than not, you will get to work with clients that try and micromanage, give way too many directions, follow up on tasks more than usual, have way too many strong opinions, and don't let you feel like you're the expert by meddling in every decision-making process. In most of the cases, this can easily be fixed by having a conversation with the client and pointing this out to them. And if they're reasonable, they will definitely understand. But if the frequency of this behavior is very high, even after having multiple conversations and you feel that the client is just not catching the drift, then it might be time to fire them. Working on a project where you're not thought of as the expert and where you're merely carrying out the orders can often end up in a mess, where the client ends up making a lot of mistakes and then puts the blame on you. So it pays to understand the client you'll be working with way in advance and to turn away the clients that don't think of you in high regards. And in the rare eventuality that you find yourself working with a client that doesn't respect you, it is a great move to walk away from the project and recommend someone else to them. You can make it easier for the client by handing over the files and reducing the payment amounts for them so that they don't have to pay for the inconvenience of finding someone new midway. Bad payment schedules. When times are tough, it's easy to pick up projects that don't really pay well and aren't highly profitable, and that's okay, as those pay the bills. But what can really mess things up are unprofitable projects with unexpectedly delayed payment schedules. You may have discussed a particular payment schedule with a client and may have even signed legal contracts around the same, but realistically, client delay payments unexpectedly, and while a few days of unexpected delay doesn't feel like a big delay to the clients, it can completely mess up your pipelines, such as employee salaries, vendor payments, overhead, subscription renewal costs, and these delays can sometimes attract fines that can exacerbate the issues for you. In most of the cases, the issues that this can create are intangible, such as team members and employees losing trust if their payments get delayed, and this can cost you in the long run severely, as it becomes difficult to attract great talent, and that starts a vicious downward spiral of the quality of your deliveries going down, and this making it difficult in turn to attract new clients. So just a single project from a single client with unexpectedly delayed payments can have severe long-term effects on your team members and company. This needs to be avoided at all costs. If you feel the payments are being delayed more than once and conversation with the client isn't helping, it's best to walk away from the project. Now the question here is, how would you walk away if there are no projects for you in the market? Well, that's a separate problem and that requires a different solution. And trust me when I say this, I used to feel the same way, but if you use the right approach, tools and tactics, that is a solvable problem. And you can have a perennial flow of clients coming to you with inquiries. And this is something that I'll be sharing with you in a future video. So stay tuned. 5. Meaningless work. When you take up a new project, it's important to understand whether the client wants you to do it. Are they looking for a specialized expert since they don't have one on board? Or are they looking for a cheap execution team because they want to outsource the uninteresting tasks? It's really important to not take up a project where the reason is that they simply want you to perform tasks because it's not worth their time and they're just looking for hands to execute and not for an expert brain to show them the solutions. In most of the cases, this would also translate into work that's meaningless, repetitive, uninteresting, and automatable. And working on such a project will seriously demotivate you and your team members, no matter how well the client is paying. Working on a meaningless project is a bad long-term strategy and something that doesn't add any value to your portfolio either. And you can't build case studies from it to attract other clients. If you try and create case studies from it, you will start attracting the wrong clients that want to hire you for the wrong projects. So as soon as you realize that you're working on a project that won't add any future value, it's time to move away. The tips shared in this video are highly counterintuitive and really difficult to apply and need a lot of maturity, experience, and discipline to effectively execute. You can either develop this discipline the easy way by learning from the experience of others, or learn it the hard way by repeating the entire process and making all the mistakes yourself. I hope you learned something new from this video. As discussed, I'll be making videos on how to assess and qualify the right clients and how to build a pipeline that will bring a perennial flow of clients, as well as how to have difficult conversations with the clients, including how to fire them. So subscribe to this channel so that you get notified whenever something new comes out. Thank you for watching.